Okay, so we're diving into Toni Morrison's Beloved today.
Oh, hard.
And, we've already talked about this a bit,
Yeah.
and it's a really powerful book, but also super complex.
Absolutely.
So today we're going to try to really unpack it for you
Yeah.
and really try to get to the core of what makes this book so important.
Yeah, and we have some great summaries and plot overviews that you gave us so we can really
Yeah, use those as a roadmap.
a roadmap, exactly.
Perfect.
So we can guide everyone through all this dense material.
Yeah, so we're going to delve into Beloved.
Mm.
We're going to give you the historical context.
Yep.
And hopefully by the end of this deep dive, you'll have a much clearer understanding of
Definitely.
Morrison's vision.
A much deeper understanding.
So let's get started.
Sounds good.
The novel takes place in 1873 in Ohio,
Okay.
and it's during the Reconstruction era.
Right after the Civil War.
Right. And one thing that really strikes me is that this isn't a story about slavery itself.
That's a great point.
It's about the people who survived it
Exactly. It's about the aftermath.
and are living with its consequences.
The scars that it left.
Yeah, those enduring consequences.
Psychological and emotional scars.
Yeah, and at the center of it all is Sethe,
Right.
who's a former slave,
Mm-hmm.
and she is haunted by this absolutely devastating act,
It's a powerful image.
which is the killing of her own daughter
Yeah.
18 years prior.
It's hard to even imagine.
I know, and it's important to note, this wasn't an act of malice.
Of course not.
It was a desperate choice.
A horrific choice.
Yeah, a horrific choice made to prevent her child from being returned to slavery.
A mother's worst nightmare.
And that act really casts a shadow over everything that happens in the novel.
Absolutely. It's the central trauma.
And it's so powerful to think that this fictional story is inspired by a real-life tragedy.
Yeah, Margaret Garner's story.
Right, the story of Margaret Garner, who escaped slavery in Kentucky
Right.
and then faced with recapture in Ohio.
She made that agonizing decision.
She killed her own child.
To save her from slavery.
And so Morrison takes this historical reality and uses it as the foundation for her narrative.
Yeah, it makes the events in Beloved feel even more real.
Yeah, just so visceral and real.
So powerful.
Yeah, and when you think about Morrison's intention with this novel, she wasn't just telling a story.
Right.
She was bringing to the forefront the history and
Of
experiences
silence.
of those whose voices had been silenced by slavery.
Those who history tried to erase.
And there's a sense that she's teaching us
In a way.
about the lasting wounds of slavery.
The wounds that haven't healed.
The wounds that continue to impact us today
Exactly.
in the form of racial discrimination and social inequalities.
It's a story that resonates through time.
Yeah, it's so powerful.
And, we also have to consider her perspective as a writer,
Right.
as a Black woman in America.
And she made a conscious choice to write for a Black audience,
Absolutely.
centering their experience
Their culture.
and their cultural references.
Without explaining it to a white audience.
Right, without feeling the need
Right,
to
indeed.
explain or justify
Absolutely.
those experiences
That's so important.
to a white readership.
Her writing style reflects that, too.
Oh, absolutely.
It's challenging.
Yes.
It's poetic.
You really have to work.
It demands that you engage with the text.
Yeah, you have to listen closely
To the rhythms.
to the nuances.
of her language.
Yeah, and it's not a comfortable narrative.
It doesn't know.
It's a complex and painful reality.
All right. So with all of that context in mind,
Yeah.
let's talk about how Morrison unfolds the story.
Okay.
She moves between the present and the past
Yes. The two timelines.
in a really interesting way.
Yeah, she weaves them together masterfully.
So we have the present timeline, which is 1873 in Cincinnati,
Right?
and then the past, which is mainly Sethe's experiences at Sweet Home Plantation in Kentucky.
Right. And those memories keep coming back,
They keep intruding.
haunting the present.
Right. So in the present timeline, we find Sethe.
Living at 124 Bluestone Road
Okay.
with her 18-year-old daughter, Denver.
Mm-hmm.
And at the beginning, her mother-in-law, baby Suggs, is also there.
Right.
But then she passes away.
Yeah, early in the novel.
And right away, there's this feeling of a ghostly presence.
A haunting.
Yeah, and it's believed to be the spirit of Sethe's infant daughter,
The one she killed.
the one she killed.
To save her from slavery.
Right, and we also learn that Sethe's two sons, Howard and Bugler,
Right.
they ran away.
Yeah, they couldn't handle it.
They couldn't handle the present.
It goes.
Right, and the way Morrison handles the past is really interesting.
Yeah, it's not a straightforward flashback.
Right, it's not just a linear telling of events.
It's fragmented.
Yeah, it's like these pieces of memory.
Flashbacks from different perspectives.
Yeah, they come at different points in the story.
Like puzzle pieces.
Yeah, and you have to put them together.
To understand the whole picture.
And it's so effective
It
because
mirrors the way trauma works.
it mirrors the way trauma is experienced.
You don't remember everything perfectly.
It's these fragments.
It's like a shattered mirror.
And that's how the past haunts the characters.
Yeah, it's not neat and tidy.
Right.
It's messy and unpredictable.
Okay, so let's talk about Sethe's time at Sweet Home Plantation.
Okay.
From what we understand, conditions there were.
Well, they were still terrible.
Of course, it was still slavery.
But under the Garners,
Yeah, the initial owners.
they were slightly less brutal.
Yeah, they allowed some liberties that were uncommon.
They treated the slaves more like people.
But of course, it was still slavery.
Still inherently unjust.
Dehumanizing.
But it's an important contrast to what comes later.
Right, so it's at Sweet Home that we meet the other enslaved people.
Yeah, like 6-0.
It's like a Paul D, Paul A, Paul F,
And Hallie.
and Hallie, who becomes Sethe's husband.
Right, the father of her children.
Right, and they form bonds.
They find ways to resist.
They dream of freedom.
They hold on to hope.
And Sethe and Hallie have 4 children together.
4 beautiful children.
But then things change.
Yeah, the school teacher arrives.
And that marks a really dark turn.
He's a different kind of evil.
He represents a cold,
Calculated.
intellectualized form of cruelty.
He's not driven by passion.
No.
He's driven by ideology.
Yeah, he treats the enslaved people like specimens
Not even human.
to be studied.
Cataloged like animals.
Yeah, for their animalistic characteristics.
It's dehumanized.
So disturbing.
And this shift leads to the escape attempt.
Right. They try to escape.
Sethe and her children.
And the others.
It's a desperate act of resistance.
But they're caught.
And the consequences are devastating.
Sethe is sexually assaulted.
By the school teacher's nephew.
And Hallie witnesses it.
But he's hidden.
And it breaks him.
It destroys him.
Yeah. And Paul D also suffers immensely during the recapture.
He's tortured.
But Sethe manages to escape.
Pregnant with Denver.
Yeah, and she gives birth
On the run.
during this arduous journey to freedom.
With the help of Amy Denver.
Right, this young white girl.
Who shows her kindness.
Yeah, and Sethe names her daughter Denver in gratitude.
A small act of hope.
And she finally arrives at Baby Suggs' house.
With her 3 older children.
Right, but it's short-lived.
Yeah, the school teacher comes.
He comes to reclaim them.
And Sethe is faced with an impossible choice.
She kills her baby.
Her own daughter.
With a handsaw.
To save her from slavery.
It's unimaginable.
It's the ultimate act of desperation.
A mother's love twisted by the brutality of slavery.
Yeah, it's a powerful indictment of the system.
Yeah, and the aftermath is just as devastating.
Yeah, Sethe and Denver are jailed.
And then when they're released, the community shuns them.
They can't understand.
They don't want to understand.
They're afraid.
So 124 Bluestone Road becomes this place of isolation.
A place of sorrow.
And Baby Suggs retreats into despair.
She loses hope.
And it's in this atmosphere of loss and isolation that Paul D reappears.
Another survivor of Sweet Home.
And he's also endured so much suffering.
He's carrying his own trauma.
But his arrival brings this flicker of hope.
A chance for connection.
For healing.
But his presence also seems to disrupt the ghost.
Ghostly presence in the house.
Like he scares it away.
And then Beloved arrives.
This mysterious young woman.
And she calls herself Beloved.
Right.
And Denver becomes convinced that she is the embodiment.
Of Sethe's dead daughter.
Right. And this is where the supernatural element really comes in.
Yeah, the past literally walks through the door.
Yeah, and Beloved is so fascinating.
She's complex.
Because she's not just a ghost.
No, she's more than that.
She's like the embodiment of the trauma of slavery.
The collective pain and suffering.
Denver becomes very attached to her.
Almost obsessively.
Yeah. And Beloved's relationship with Sethe.
It's intense.
It's demanding.
Manipulative.
She wants Sethe's love.
Yeah, and she wants Sethe to understand.
To acknowledge her death.
The sacrifice that she made.
Yeah, it's a heavy burden.
And this connection starts to really affect Sethe. Yeah, it's draining her.
Emotionally. And Beloved even seduces Paul D.
Yeah, further destabilizing the household.
And Denver sees what's happening.
So she sees her mother fading.
And she makes a decision.
To get help.
Yeah, she leaves 124.
And reaches out to the community.
To Lady Jones, her former teacher.
It's a brave act.
Yeah, and eventually the community, which had shunned Sethe, they come back to 124.
To confront Beloved.
And it's this powerful moment of collective action.
But it's chaotic.
Yeah, and Beloved disappears
Vanishes.
just as suddenly as she arrived.
Like a dream.
And the ending is so ambiguous.
It stays with you.
Bodwin comes to take Denver to a new job,
Right.
and Sethe attacks him.
Mistaking him for the school teacher.
Yeah, the trauma is still so present.
It never really goes away.
And then Paul D returns,
To see.
and she's at baby Suggs' deathbed.
Morning, beloved.
And Paul D says,
Yeah, your best thing, Sethe.
"You are."
It's a simple but powerful statement.
So powerful.
And then that final line.
This is not a story to pass on.
Chilling.
Haunting.
It's a warning.
About the dangers of forgetting the past.
The importance of remembering.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
it's clear that Beloved is a novel about really profound themes.
About trauma.
About memory.
About motherhood.
About healing.
About the legacy of slavery.
And it's all rooted in this specific historical context.
And Morrison's vision.
Her desire to give voice to the silenced.
To make us remember.
And it makes you think about memory itself.
How it shapes us.
How it haunts us.
How we grapple with it.
And what is our responsibility to confronting our history?
Even the painful parts.
Sethe's story forces us to ask these questions.
About our shared past.
About who we are.
About what we owe to each other.
So this deep dive has hopefully given you a more nuanced understanding of Beloved.
Of its power.
But this is just the beginning.
There's always more to explore.
Beloved is a novel that demands reflection.
That stays with you.
It invites us to delve deeper.
Into history.
Into memory.
Into the human spirit.
Into ourselves.
That's the power of great literature.
It changes you.
It makes you think.
It makes you feel.
It makes you question.
And it makes you want to learn more.
Exactly.
So go read Beloved.
Or reread it.
And let's keep the conversation going.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
It was my pleasure.